It was always August when we spent a week with our grandma. Me, Joey, and my kid sister Mary Alice. We could hardly see her town because of Grandma. She was so big, and the town was so small. Then they buried Shotgun Cheatham. The coffee pot was where people went to talk tall and swap gossip. Mary Alice and I carried the tale home that a suspicious type had come off the train. She stuck out a mile and was asking around about Shotgun Cheatham, and she was taking notes. Grandma had already heard it on the grapevine that Shotgun was no more, though she wasn't the first person people ran to with news. When she heard the town was apt to fill up with newspaper reporters, her jaw clenched.
Tell you what that reporter's after. She wants to get the horse law on us because she thinks we're just a bunch of hayseeds and no-camp country people. We are, but what business of it is of hers? Nobody went near Shotgun because he smelled like a polecat. He lived in a chicken coop, and now we'll have to burn it down.
Down at the coffee pot, they say that Shotgun rode with the James boys.
Who's doing all this talking?
Real humped-over lady with buck teeth.
Cross-eyed? That'd be Effie Wilcox. You think she's ugly now. You should have seen her as a girl. She'll talk you to death. Her tongue's attached in the middle and flaps at both ends. Never trust an ugly woman. She's got a grudge against the world. Looks like we've got company. Take those tomatoes off the fire.
Ma'am, I'm making inquiries about the late Shotgun Cheatham.
Who's been talking to you?
It was mainly an elderly lady.
Ugly as a sin, calls herself Wilcox? She's been in the state hospital for the insane until just here lately. But as a reporter, I guess you knows that out. They tell you how Shotgun come by his name?
Opinions seem to vary, ma'am.
Oh well, famous Sweden. He got in the Civil War. He was always a crack shot. Came home from the war with a big line of medals bigger than his chest.
And he never married?
Of course the reporter had been lied to big time up at the cafe, but Grandma's lies were more interesting, even historical. They made Shotgun look better while they left Effie Wilcox in the dust.
Never did. He broke Effie Wilcox's heart. She's bitter still as the sea. You drop by the coffee pot and tell them you heard that Shotgun's being buried by my house with full honors. He'll spend his last night above ground in my front room, and you're invited.
Much obliged, ma'am.
Happy to help.
By nightfall, a green pine coffin stood on 2 sawhorses in the bay window of the front room, and people milled in the yard. I'll tell you just 2 things about him. He didn't have his teeth in, and he was wearing bib overalls. I'd have bet money Grandma wouldn't let Mrs. Wilcox in for a quick look, let alone overnight. The people in the yard still couldn't believe she was letting anyone in.
Oh, Mrs. Dowdle, I've come to set the night with you, as we say ta to our brave little soldier. Well, don't he look natural?
But of course Grandma was putting on the best show possible to pull wool over the reporter's eyes. Little though she seemed to think of townspeople, she thought less of strangers. Then the gauze rippled as if a hand had passed across it from the other side.
Sweet mother! No! You pay your time, boy. You don't get no more. The Dennis are walking! And Miss Dowdle's shooting for me! Ow!
Apart from Grandma herself, I was the only one who'd seen her big old snaggletooth tomcat streak out of the coffin and over the windowsill when she let fire. And I suppose she'd seen him climb in, which gave her ideas. It was the cat, sitting smug on Shotgun Cheatham's breathless chest, who'd batted at the gauze the way a cat will. And he sure let out the way he'd come when Grandma fired just over his ragged ears, as he'd probably used up all 8 lives already. The cat in the coffin gave Grandma Dowdle her chance. She didn't seem to have any time for Effie Wilcox, whose tongue flapped at both ends, but she had even less for newspaper reporters who think your business is theirs. Courtesy of the cat, she'd fired around, so to speak.